This is definitely the most satisfying wilderness survival experience. Living in a luxury cabin that can withstand a level 18 blizzard. Eating various foods hunted and gathered by hand. If you ever feel unclean, this shelter even features a 70-degree sauna room. You can take a bath, even in -20-degree weather. This is simply too wonderful. Last winter, Jukai built a shelter in the wild. It successfully attracted 23 million viewers. He originally planned to stay for just a few days. Was unexpectedly trapped in the mountains by a heavy snowstorm. What was supposed to be a few days turned into an entire winter. Now, at the beginning of the new spring, he has returned here once again. Everything remains just as he left it. The entire shelter hasn't suffered much damage. Moreover, the interior is still dry and tidy. This is great news for Jukai. This time, he plans to expand the living area. He wants to build a spacious living room in front of the door. After all, the current bedroom is a bit too small. It's even difficult to roll over while sleeping at night. Thinking of this, he immediately sped up his work. Before long, he dug out a foundation of suitable size. He took the logs that had piled up under the eaves, sawing them all short, to facilitate the subsequent room extension. Just as Jukai was getting into the rhythm, he attracted two neighbors to watch. Fortunately, these bears weren't interested in him. He didn't have to worry about his life being threatened. After finishing that, he transported logs from nearby. After simply peeling off the bark, he dug deep holes directly at the entrance, inserting the support pillars firmly. This width is enough to ensure the structural integrity of the shelter. He used the same method for the other wooden pillars. After the same simple bark stripping process, they were used to build the cabin walls. Of course, he had to lay a waterproof layer behind them first. This prevents mud and river water from seeping in easily. With every new layer he built up, Jukai would lay down insulation cotton and fill the gaps behind with soil. This provides the maximum level of thermal insulation. When he feels tired from his daily work, his favorite hobby is fiddling with his trail cameras. He also scatters some grain to feed the wild animals. After all, the early spring forest is still quite desolate. Animals often struggle with food shortages, going hungry for days at a time. After returning from his break, he continued to perfect the unfinished walls. With his previous building experience, his speed was noticeably faster this time. In the blink of an eye, Jukai had finished 2 walls. The panels he had disassembled earlier were pieced together to make a wild-style bench and table. Roasting meat here while resting would be quite nice. Even with just the half-finished walls, sitting inside provides a great sense of security. After eating and drinking his fill, it was time to rest. With the help of the blazing fireplace inside, he could even read a book leisurely, allowing his brain to soak up some knowledge. As the next day arrived, the temperature today was only 10 degrees. He gathered many logs early in the morning to seal off the remaining wall sections. For Jukai, work and life have never been separate. They just take a different form. Some choose to build their ideal life with their own hands in the mountains, others return to the city to find a stable job and build a career. Judging by Kyle's craftsmanship, even if he didn't do construction in the wild, could easily find a job as a highly paid construction worker. Unfortunately, job hunting abroad is quite a hassle, often requiring a lot of travel to find a good position. It's not as convenient as it is here at home. You can interview and find a job with just a few clicks. For example, yesterday, a friend who just found a job told me that using 58.com is the fastest way to find work. The platform has tons of verified general labor jobs, guaranteed and reliable. You can even skip the formal interview, applying while chatting. The efficiency is incredibly high. If they don't reply within 24 hours, the platform compensates you. Once you have a job, you can even find a rental directly from the landlord. Everything is so convenient on 58.com. When the wall reached half-man height, he took the time to install a 4-pane window to ensure natural light in the living room. To ensure everything was foolproof, every log added to the top was secured with specialized nails, maximizing the wall's sturdiness. These 100-pound logs were very strenuous to carry, but thinking about having a home of his own, Jukai gritted his teeth and persevered. The logs he prepared in advance saved him a lot of time. He also installed moss on the sides, so he didn't have to worry about soil erosion from the rain. Perhaps Jukai wanted to slack off today. It wasn't until dark that he finished the first wall. The next day, he was awakened by the morning sun. Seeing the wild boars working hard, he was also filled with energy. He first dismantled the original stairs, dug holes using the same method, placed load-bearing pillars, and built upwards following the roof's curvature, until it was level with the surrounding walls. since the last wall needed a door. After installing the main pillars, he brought over a pre-made door frame and secured it with iron nails as the entrance. The rest of the space was filled with logs. Working in such a natural oxygen bar, Jukai didn't feel tired at all. In high spirits, he didn't even break a sweat. To celebrate reaching the halfway mark on his home, he prepared a very sumptuous dinner. However, the drifting aroma made the black bear from the other day watch him hungrily. But this bear had the desire but lacked the courage. At least with the protection of the campfire, he didn't have to worry about his safety tonight. Next, he needed to install flooring for the cabin. Otherwise, this muddy, sandy ground would deform after being stepped on a few times. He found several square timbers, applied anti-corrosive coating to the surface, and after letting them air dry, laid them evenly on the living room floor. Using this as a foundation, he installed the wooden boards bit by bit. Because of the joists underneath, the floor is raised high off the ground. This filters out moisture in the summer and blocks out the cold in the winter. The whole process was like a puzzle, looking very entertaining. He didn't even overlook the stairs at the entrance. After all, the interior and exterior decor styles must be unified, effectively preventing the earthen walls on both sides from collapsing. Once finished, the overall structure was impeccably clean and tidy. By the time he finished, autumn had arrived. The entire land was about to become desolate. Jukai, who felt no urgency about time, continued to slowly fill in the insulation cotton, setting the stage for future sauna sessions. Living in the forest means seeing animals frequently. As well as all kinds of strange mushrooms. Specific species might require asking someone from you. On a new day, he bought a fireplace from town, placing it in his intended corner. Then he selected a suitable spot on the wall and sawed out the smoke vent. He installed fireproof materials at the connection point, as the temperature there would be very high during combustion. Once the heating facilities were installed, he immediately started a fire to test it out and to burn off the industrial oil from the new fireplace. That stuff needs a lot of burning to be completely removed. Even though he was alone, he sat in a daze like this until dark. Then he lay down in a shelter for a peaceful rest. Constructing the remaining roof was even simpler. He just needed to fix the outermost logs first and drive nails into the joints. After repeating this countless times, a perfect sloped roof was completed. Of course, insulation on the roof was also essential, as that's where most of the heat escapes. Afterward, he laid a layer of silver foil film to lock in the heat, while also filtering out rainwater. Considering the shelter's aesthetics, he took a bucket to find moss nearby. This stuff is a natural camouflage in the wild. It's very strong in terms of both beauty and insulation. With 4 layers of roof insulation alone, you can see how meticulous Jukai is. The emerald green color looks very comfortable. That night, snowflakes suddenly began to fall. Temperature dropped toward 0. A shelter with such a high level of security was enough to ensure Jukai's safety. Not to mention with both fireplaces at full blast, the interior temperature instantly soared to over 30 degrees. He could even sleep in short sleeves inside. After a whole night of snowfall, the world outside had turned completely white. He worked overtime last night to finish a door, which could now be put to good use. You could say his hands were like a ruler. The size was a perfect, seamless fit. To prevent sparks from the fireplace from flying into the room, he added another layer of fireproof cotton around it. Since the entire cabin is a wooden structure, he didn't want all his hard work to go up in smoke because of a fire. Knowing how cold winter can be, he filled the walls with insulation cotton whenever he had time, and stockpiled more firewood to prepare for the upcoming cold snap. The cold weather made the wood very easy to split. The resulting wood was enough to last him several days. For the next period, he continued to cover the log cabin with soil, and the surface with moss. He wondered if the elk approaching from a distance would treat his doorstep like a buffet. Jukai thought so too. He immediately installed trail cameras at the door, specifically to monitor the animals. After finishing that, he applied a layer of varnish to the door. It prevents decay while adding a vintage feel. Of course, a doorknob was also essential. At this point, the exterior of the log cabin was finished. All that was left was the interior decoration. He first smoothed out the logs on the wall, then pieced together bed legs with wooden poles. By laying wooden boards on top, this could be turned into a double sofa. If any friends visited, could even serve as a temporary bed frame. Concerned about frequent rain and snow after the temperature drop, he also installed a waterproof cap on the chimney. Now it looks much safer. Once done, Jukai returned inside and fixed several storage shelves to the wall. Pots and pans could be placed here. The most common daily task is continuously cleaning the log cabin. Though tedious and boring, it is part of life in the wilderness. With the new fireplace, he had more options for cooking food. Just look at this, a fragrant cheese, tomato, and beef bun. It's definitely better than what most people eat at home. When a new day arrived, Jukai dismantled the original fireplace and reinstalled a layer of iron plating underneath. Because he planned to have a sauna in this weather, fireproofing was a top priority. While waiting for the stones to heat up, he took the time to cut some wood to build a storage box next to the stairs. His construction tools could be neatly placed here. It could also serve as a temporary bench when guests visit. He maximized the use of the narrow space. Even the piled-up firewood was perfectly relocated, greatly increasing his living area. With a sofa in place, he naturally needed a dining table. As meticulous as ever, he applied finish to the frame. It seems that for furniture, he prefers a vintage style. After applying the finish, he put it by the fireplace to dry and installed a latch on the door. After all, there are many wild beasts near his home at night. If he wasn't careful, he wouldn't know who was becoming whose dinner. Next, he brought some precious fresh water and poured it evenly over the heated stones. With this simple action, the temperature successfully soared to over 40 degrees. This is the perfect temperature for a sauna. In this freezing weather, being able to take a sauna in a cabin built with your own hands is an indescribably wonderful feeling. Judging by his sweat, it must be very refreshing. 10 minutes later, the temperature reached 75 degrees. At this point, it was even a bit difficult for him to breathe. He immediately opened the door to cool down. The heavy snow outside contrasted sharply with the 75-degree interior. If he could have a few steaks to satisfy his hunger after a full meal, this would be a truly godlike life. The steak looks very tempting. Jukai didn't want to waste any of it. After enjoying his feast alone, he lay down to rest. At this point, Jukai's new home is complete. He can live a peaceful life here.